Imagine if the people of Mississippi were just minding their own business, being nice, southerly people, when suddenly some man just comes up and decides he is better than the entire population of Mississippi, and he will prove it. Normally, this guy would just be kind of thought of as delusional and maybe keep an eye on him, but he doesn't seem harmful in any way. But in the next following decade, he does kill every single person from Mississippi. Every man, woman, and child. Gone. And as absurd as that sounds and how ethically wrong it is to even think about, there's something similar that did happen, and not very far away from here too. In modern society, this really seems like something that would be shamed. I mean, if someone shoots 2 to 3 innocent people, they are locked away and they are shamed and scorned for everything that they did. Now take for example, Adam Lanza. He went into an elementary school and he shot and killed 27 people, with 20 of them being children. And he is now one of the most hated names in America. Now imagine if that didn't end up that way. If he was alive and we celebrated it. Imagine every year if we had something called a Lanza Day. How ridiculous does that sound? Now, that's actually pretty much real though, because every single year we do celebrate a day that celebrates a man that's caused genocide like that. And it's Columbus Day. Now, Christopher Columbus was around in an age when everyone was kind of thinking that the end of the world was going to be coming soon. It was called the apocalyptic times. And so some people thought, well, I'm just going to sit back and watch as the earth comes up in flames and Christ comes back again. But there were other people, like Christopher Columbus, who thought of themselves as apocalyptic actors. So they thought that they could kind of do God's work and bring about the second coming a little faster, maybe make it easier for God. So Columbus sets sail. And let me just show you really quickly what Columbus's route actually was, because everyone thinks that he came directly to where we live right now, when in reality, see, he didn't even touch North America right over there. He was only down there. So now that we know that, just a side note that it didn't happen here. He thought that he was going to be bringing about the next stage of this whole apocalyptic manner. So the following steps after this is that he needs to spread the gospel and expand Spanish territory, and the next thing after that would be that Spain would capture and control Jerusalem. That was the whole thing, and then God can come in the world. So he was ushering in the last days and everything that the Bible entails from that. So Columbus sounds very Christian. He was known to be a devout Christian, but that just seems a little odd because he had a complete lack of compassion when dealing with the natives and the people in the land that he just found. This trip that he had was not just a voyage to expand Spanish territory. It was a fantastic journey to bring in the second apocalypse. Now, that has to remember that this is a very religious-driven decision of his and of the government's. So he thought of all of this religious trip as being centered around the apocalypse, which means that the land and the new people that he's meeting are just props in this whole drama about the apocalypse. He didn't think of them as respectable actual people. Now, the only thing left to do is spread the gospel, and then you're another step closer to the end of the world. And the people that lived there, the indigenous tribe of people, they were just props to get this over with. They were not considered humans with different cultures, but having the same rights that Columbus demanded himself. They were not. They were the means. They were the means to spread the gospel and to get you closer to the apocalypse. Now, you would take a step back and think about that the entire world is going to end. And Columbus thinks that he is the one person out there who's going to bring the end. That's a little crazy. And historians really did think that he had this deranged mindset that he was the center of the apocalyptic drama. And in this drama, people were valued by what they symbolized in it. So he thought he was the center of it, and he thought everyone else was props, and that's the kind of mindset that really brought about this genocide. He didn't respect the people, and he took advantage of their kindness and generosity, honestly. So now that you know Columbus's point of view and motivation to do all of this, let's find out what he did. From what we've seen of his writings, he says that he first saw the people and they were just kind and naked people. They were very easily impressed. You could show them a gun and they would think that you're from the heavens above. But they were very peaceful. Peaceful until you started taking their things and forcing them to mine gold for the Spanish government. They had no intentions to do that on their own. They were being forced to do it. And along with that, Columbus would compare these people to the people of Guinea, which he knew of back home, and they were not considered the same value and respectability as white people. So they already didn't respect them at all. Another thing is that they had aspects of their life, the native people, aspects of their life that the Spaniards found crazy. Like they would take time to relax and be idle when they weren't working, which was shamed in Europe. So one thing, though, is that they were not killed for fun. A lot of historians like to think that and to blame a lot of mass murder on Columbus himself. But they're the main workforce. They would be too expensive to replace. So it was really a gradual eradication of these people. So that came about from having infants where their mothers would have trauma and exhaustion from all of the work, and they wouldn't be able to provide breast milk for their babies, and they would end up dying from malnutrition. And the men and women would be separated because of work, and they couldn't have kids if they're separated. And there was a famine that would come about because of all the warfare, and there was a disruption of the old ways of farming, so there was no food for them. So the Spaniards really didn't directly kill every single indigenous person. It was more like directly related, like the deaths were related to them being there, and they wouldn't have happened if the Spaniards hadn't come and shown up. Really, if the Spaniards had arrived, and if they respected these new people, and they looked at them as a different culture, but one that they could learn from, and they deserve respect, and everything would just be different. Everything today would be different. Everything about that he did, everything that he stands for, and what people think of him, everything would be different. So let's go back for a second to the delusional man in Mississippi. I know it sounded really crazy to celebrate everything that he did, but we do celebrate it. And I don't think that the hundreds of years between what he did and now really makes what he did any less tragic. Do you?